Playoff week. Excited about it. Any questions?
What was the review like with Sam just over Sunday night?
I think it's like any game. I mean, every game you go through each play with every one of the players, their position groups, what we could do better, what other players around you can do better at times, and also critical of ourselves as far as, what plays we got to, what plays we had in the game plan. So all those things, when you don't have the performance you'd like, I know a lot gets put on the quarterback, and that's just the nature of it. But generally, what you find is it's kind of a little bit of taking turns when things don't go well overall, and we just got to be better execution-wise across the board.
As I mentioned, the red zone stuff, feeling like that was paramount to kind of why you guys couldn't get things going, or at least early in the first half. What did you see from those issues?
Yeah, I think that's really the story of the game. I mean, when you look at 0 for 4 in the red zone as far as scoring touchdowns, and then 2 of those times not coming away with points at all, that's the difference in a game like that when you don't come away with points against a good football team. And really thought our defense played really well. And eventually, though, you're going to have to score some points against a team like that, and ultimately didn't execute the way we wanted. We need to make sure that the plays we're calling, everybody's clear with the intent, and everything is set up in a way that can be protected or have answers, all those types of things. And at times guys make a play is part of it, but again, we look at all of it. It's not just one guy. It never is. And there were some instances there where we can get help around Sam. There's some plays I know Sam would like to have back, but we're ready to move forward, with the Los Angeles Rams.
Just as far as the red zone goes, I guess, what do you think the solution might be to the running in the red zone? It seems like it's kind of been something you haven't been able to rely on in that low red area.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the teams you're playing. When we played Atlanta, for instance, they put 5 on the line and run 2 guys through the A gaps almost every time you get inside the 5. So if you got some good runs you like against that, let me know. And sometimes there are some schemed up runs down there that you do like against specific looks. If you feel like you got a beat on kind of techniques guys are playing and how you can attack it. But yeah, it's a mix of game planning, situationally, when those things get called, when they don't, kind of how we want to play the game, how we feel like their strengths or their weaknesses are in those moments also. So, and then obviously, third down, fourth downs is where you're going to get a little more pass generally, depending on D&D. So, yeah, it's kind of a week-to-week thing as far as how we look at the defense, how we game plan, and how we feel about the plays we have in the plan.
Any of the type of personnel Detroit uses in the red zone affect, like, how wanting to run it is in the red zone?
No, I wouldn't say that personnel-wise. We called plays that we felt like were going to be successful down there, and it didn't work out the way we had hoped. But going into the plan and from the evidence they've shown, we felt like we had some good play calls in there. But credit to them, they made the plays.
Wes, did you see anything watching your back or talking with Sam that explained any of the accuracy issues he had on Sunday night?
Well, I think for any player, if something doesn't go necessarily the way they want to on any specific play, I mean, you try to fall back on the technique, the fundamentals of playing the position, and that's no different from any position. But at the quarterback position, where were his feet? Where were his eyes? Is he grounded? Is he getting his back foot in the ground? Is he able to, with the rush up front, But have full confidence that Sam's going to make a couple of those throws that maybe were a little bit off in that game, and he's made them all year. He's bounced back when he's had maybe a rough game. There haven't been a whole lot of them, but when he has, he's bounced back, and fully expect that this week.
Kevin talked after the Jacksonville game about the session you guys had with him on Monday and how introspective he was and what he was to kind of critiquing on playing. How did he come at it when you guys met with him yesterday?
Well, Sam's going to be harder on himself than anyone else, and you watch certain plays, and he's going to be the guy most critical. Nobody, Josh McCown doesn't have to tell him, hey, you got to make that throw. He's going to be saying things like that about himself, and even being harder on himself than maybe where I would be saying, hey, this guy's got to be a little better here for you. This guy's got to lean and separate for you. He's got to get protection. I'm trying to look at the full picture there as to other factors that could have helped him be successful. And then obviously Josh and Grant are digging in on the individual details, of that position. So again, it's a team thing. It's not all on Sam. There's a lot of talk about Sam. Sam's going to be just fine. We're excited to play the Rams. We're going to go in there and have a good plan and give it our best go.
What types of problems do Jared Verse and Braden Fisk present up front?
Two really good young players. Pass rush, physical in the run game. Fisk had some good plays against us where, going into it, I think he'd been banged up a little bit and really felt like that game. And then you kind of watch some of the tapes since our game is maybe kind of his coming out party where he really started to cause some problems inside. We had some good movement on some combinations initially on him, and his ability to kind of get grounded and shed guys and get in on some tackles. Was pretty impressed by him the first go around, and obviously Verse, his ability to affect the quarterback. But again, I kind of have a little more just respect as a coach sometimes against a guy like that who's got a lot of pass rush, but in the run game, as far as setting edges and just being really physical on the edge. He's a really good young player. I think across the board, they have a really good young nucleus of players. The safeties, they've got a couple corners that have played a lot of ball, but the young safeties they have, that front, the way they've used Michael Hoyt, 97, is a big, tough, physical player who was there when I was there, and the way they've used him to kind of in some different packages, kind of off the ball, on the ball, off the ball, different places, has been really creative. So they create some problems. They got a good young team.
When you're a receiver or a tight end, and there's defenses that are as physical as the Lions were the other night in coverage, like what are the techniques that, broadly speaking, that coaches give players to either avoid that physicality or to win in that situation?
Yeah, when you're playing against tight man coverage, I mean, really, you've got to work to get on edges, right? You've got to work your releases, and you've got to work edges on guys. You can't run down the middle of them. You're just going to get held up, and by the time you start to try to separate, they're going to be grabby. They're going to be, they're not going to call everything. You understand that when you play a team like that plays a lot of man coverage, they want to challenge you. You'd love to get every call. We watch the tape and we say, God, that's a hold, but you just know you're not going to get them all. And we got several in that game, but it's just kind of the nature of it. And so you've got to work your technique. You've got to be ready to use your hands to chop or reduce your surface area, get on edges, lean, separate, and hopefully if it's egregious, we do get the call. But otherwise, there were some good examples in that game of, Jalen Naylor lean and separate on Branch and wasn't able to stay with him. We hit a big gain on the right sideline there. I mean, there was good examples in that game of guys working their technique, getting on edges, and being able to separate. It just overall just wasn't enough.
It looked like Justin in particular was getting frustrated during the game, like you could see him gesturing to officials and all that. Do you think any part of that sort of scheme is designed to do just that, just to kind of raise the emotional level of the opponent, even if it's not providing perfect coverage every time?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak. I'm not in their meetings, but I do think around the league, and this is just broad, guys who play a lot of man like that, they teach them to grab, and the good ones are pretty crafty about it. And then when they do get the call, all of them put their hands up and say, "What? No way." And I think it's kind of just human nature of the calls too. It's just, the refs don't want to be throwing flags every play, and so you're not going to get all those calls, and you just have to be mature enough to kind of work through and keep playing football. Just keep playing, and hopefully we can give them enough stacks and bunches and switch releases and some rubs at times, to where we can ease some of that tight man coverage. But and that's how we look inward.
Do you think Justin lets it get to him too much?
I don't think he lets it get to him too much. I think Justin's an ultimate competitor, and there's going to be frustration, from a guy like that who's his caliber of player if he's not getting the football and affecting the game in a way that he knows he can. And I think that's totally natural and expected from our end.
Just with the way that the Lions rushed a lot of extra people, do you expect that the Rams will do a lot of the same stuff?
It's you can ask Sean McVay and Cris I'd love to know. We've got to have a plan for the pressure packages that they have, and they've got some good ones, and they know how to attack protections. They know how to try to eat up your running back and all those types of things. We just got to have a good plan, and if they bring them, they're also susceptible. We weren't able to make Detroit pay on some of those, but there's some guys running for what would be potentially big gains if we potentially handle it a little better or saw the guy or whatever it may be. But there's some different reasons on different pressures that they brought. But there are some big plays, and it's kind of live by the sword, die by the sword. You bring that kind of pressure, and they were successful at it. Give them credit again, but would like to have a couple of those back. Think we could have made them pay on a couple of those things, and then they have to start thinking about it. But we really never did that in the game, and so I don't blame them for continuing to bring some of that heat.
Is there anything from the 2021 Rams run that you're a part of that has kind of returned front of center as this team tries to, it's not identical, but having the 4-5 game is going to be right back there?
Well, besides just kind of maybe a thought about, hey, when we won it, we had to go through the wild card, and had to go through the wild card, so had to play the 3 games before the Super Bowl, and really, we're taking this thing one game at a time. But we did have to, if we did end up seeing Detroit again at some point, we had to beat San Francisco, who had beat us twice that year, and really, in my tenure there, had beat us 6 straight times. So we really didn't have the right formula, the right answer, and we're able to kind of put together a good plan for the NFC Championship game and able to get that win. But it's I've always felt like the teams that make it to the Super Bowl, it's the ball's it's got to bounce the right way a couple times. Your best players got to play great at the big moments in the game, and you kind of see that throughout the league. I felt that way when my dad was part of a Super Bowl team. It just felt like things just their best players made plays in the big moments that they needed them. And we've got some really good players, and we trust those guys to go out there and compete, and we'll see how it goes.
You guys have a coaching staff of a lot of people that have been through this. What kinds of things do you communicate from those types of runs to players who are going through it for the first time?
Yeah, I think I actually think last week, with just the kind of the magnitude of that game and how it was kind of propped up, and I know essentially it was kind of a playoff type game. I think it was good for this team. I think you want to win every game you play, but I'm just talking about the scale and magnitude of the game. It was like a playoff atmosphere, but it wasn't single elimination where now we're out of that. So I think it's just good to understand that the bigger the game is, the more you have to just rely on your technique, your fundamentals, understand the plan, preparing for it, take it one game at a time. We're not looking ahead. We're focusing on the Los Angeles Rams as a team that beat us earlier in the season. It's going to be a big challenge for us, but I think we'll be ready. So, thanks.